Hi, this is Simolytics. Welcome to another lesson. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts or questions in the comments. Let's get started.
Okay, let's understand the scenario we're going to work on. Suppose you have an Excel file, let's call it Excel file A. Well, in an Excel file, you can have one table or you can have multiple tables in different tabs or even multiple tables in a single tab. So you can store a number of different tables or just one single table in Excel. We learned from previous videos that we can start Power Query from an Excel file. So as I'm working in this example, I'm working with an Excel file that I called Excel file A. So I'm starting Power Query from the same Excel file A. Let's call it Power Query A. I'm calling it Power Query A because, as you know, as we learned from previous videos, you can start Power Query from any new Excel file. So I'm just calling it Power Query A to make clear that Power Query here was started from this Excel file right here, Excel file A and Power Query A. Well, we learned that Power Query and Excel are different programs. They're different platforms. Although you can start Power Query from Excel, Power Query A from Excel A, Power Query is a different place. It's a different platform that is embedded into Excel. So when you start Power Query from scratch, you won't see the same Excel tables in Power Query. So Power Query doesn't, even though it has been started from the same Excel file, it won't automatically store the same tables you have in Excel. So in case you want to bring those tables over to Power Query, even though they're stored in the same file, you have to willingly import those tables into Power Query. So you can import the tables from Excel file A into Power Query A. I just want to make clear that we are to this point working in the same Excel file A, Power Query being started from Excel file A, but as Power Query doesn't automatically import data from Excel, you are willingly importing those tables into Power Query A. But to this point, we have been working on a single Excel file, okay? But also, we can bring new tables from a different Excel file into Power Query A. Of course, from Excel file B, I could start a new Power Query B, and so on and so forth. But in this example, I'm using Power Query from Excel A to import data both from the very same Excel A and from another file, Excel B. So we're going to be importing into Power Query A the internal tables from the same Excel file and new tables from a different Excel file. Power Query is a platform in which you can import data from multiple sources, like we discussed in the previous video. So let's see how we can use these two approaches to import data into Power Query. Okay, so let's start opening up our Excel file. You are going to start with the 10040 stores file. This file has the same code as the current lesson. So you have two Excel files in this folder, but we're going to start with 10040 stores. And this is an Excel file that already has a table in it. It could actually have multiple tables here. I only have one, but it doesn't matter how many tables you have in your Excel. And let's call it Excel A. So this is an Excel file that already has a table in it. And like I said, could have multiple tables too. And then I'm going to start Power Query A from this Excel file. And how can I do it? I just have to go to Data. And if I want to import this table, this stores table into Power Query, all I have to do is make sure that my table is organized. So my table has to be in the shape of a square, of a rectangle. So of course I could have a few data missing. I could have some blanks, but overall it has to look like a table. If your data is all spread out, it doesn't look like a table, so probably you're going to have problems when you import the data. So as long as your data is actually a table, we can import it to Power Query. Like I said, this table here is not automatically in Power Query. You have to import the data into Power Query. So I don't have to do anything difficult. I just have to click anywhere inside my table, anywhere inside my table. Then I go to Data and then From Table or Range, from Table or Range. It means I'm importing data from a table within the same Excel file. So I'm just going to click it. And then this little message is just to make sure Excel understood the right size of your table. It's saying your table goes from cell A1, from cell A1 to, well, actually, let me start over because I messed it up. It's just showing that my table goes from cell A1 to Y307. So it really goes, let me just check, it goes from cell A1 to my last cell is Y307. Okay, so that's absolutely right. In case you want to reshape your data, you could just click from table or range. Imagine you only want to import data from column A to column, say, M. So all you have to do is just adjust the size of your table. Now you want it to be from A1 to M307. So it's going to import only the columns in the range selected by the user. Okay, so the little question here is if my table has headers or not. In this case, yes, I have headers in my table, so I have to keep it checked. If I didn't have any headers in my table, if, for example, if my table was like this, let me just exclude the first row, which is the row with the headers. So if my table was like this, then I would uncheck this little box. Of course, Excel is smart enough to predict if you have headers or not. In this case, it noticed you don't really have any headers, but in case you want to consider your first row as a header, you can just check the box or tell Excel exactly what you want to do. So let me just undo what I just did because I want to keep my headers, and then from table range. So all is right. Okay, let's keep it. I don't want to import all this data, so I'll just keep it from column A to column M, A to M. And yes, I have headers in my table, so I'm going to leave it checked and then click OK. And then the Power Query editor will open up with the data I just imported. And I can rename this as stores underscore table, or I can call it whatever I want. And then this is how you import data from a table within the same Excel file from which you opened Power Query. Now let's see how we can import data from a different Excel file. So let's close out of the Power Query editor. Let me show you. I'll just exit and ask Power Query to keep the changes. So it's going to save my table. And now in this little panel on the right hand side, you will see all the tables that you imported into Power Query. So in case you can't see it, I just go to data. If I have anything else selected, I go to data and then queries and connections. And then from Excel, I will see my list of tables in Power Query. Like I said, Power Query is different from Excel. Power Query right now is closed. I just closed out of it. So it's not showing anymore. I'm in Excel. But even though I am in Excel, from this right-hand side panel, I can see my list of tables that are stored in my Power Query. Okay, let me just close it. And you will see that I started from this table. This is my initial table, the store table. And check it out. I only selected the columns from A to M, and only these columns are colored. Now they're all blue, and the part of the table that I did not select are not marked in blue. This is because whenever Excel sends the data over to Power Query, it shapes the original table as an Excel table. We're going to talk more about these Excel tables, structured tables later on, but pretty much it's a different way Excel sees a table, and which gives you more features to work with these same tables. We're going to talk about in more detail about it later. But you can also see that the same table that I imported into Power Query, it was brought back into Excel. So this is pretty much a mirror of the table that I have in Power Query. So let's assume, for example, let me click Queries and Connections. Then my table that is in Power Query is showing up. So I'm going to double click it, and then Power Query is going to open up again. And for example, let me make a quick transformation here. I'm going to click the first column and hold Shift so I can select the range from the first column to the fourth column. And then I'm gonna click Remove Other Columns. Okay, now I only have 4 columns. So if I click Close and Load, the transformations I did on my table will be brought over to Excel. So pretty much this tab here is my initial table. This tab is my new table that I just transformed in Power Query and brought it back to Excel. I don't have to bring it back to Excel. I could just leave it in Power Query, not bring it back. We will see how to do it later. In this class, we're only concerned about importing data. And now let's start importing data from a different Excel file. And the process is exactly the same as importing CSV files like we did in a previous video. So we're just going to Data. If you're anywhere else, go to Data and then Get Data from a file only instead of a text or CSV file. Now we're going to work with an Excel workbook. And when I say Excel file, Excel workbook would be the same thing. So you go to folder 10040, and then we've been working thus far with the stores table. And now we're going to import the stores table. We're going to import the products table. So remember, we are currently working with the stores table. This stores file, actually, it's this file right here. And we've been working with everything that was already stored within this file. And now we're going to import data from a second file, the products file. So I'm going to just click it, double click it. And now I'm going, as I have only one spreadsheet in my products table, products file, it's going to show a preview of the data that is in this file. And of course, if I had more spreadsheets and more tables in this products file, they would all be listed here on the left-hand side. But as I have only one, this is the one that is showing to me. So I just checked the data. That's right. That's the data I want to import. So I'm just going to click Transform Data. Remember, if I want to bring it over to Power Query, I will click Transform Data. If I click Load, it's going to bring the table back directly to Excel. That's not what I want. So I'm going to transform data in Power Query. The Power Query editor will open up. Then I can rename this new table. So product table, and then I can start working with a table that comes from a different Excel file, not the one I started Power Query from. Okay, so if I want to load this data into my current Excel file, I'll just click Close and Load. I could have more options here. I can choose, if I click Close and Load to, I can choose if I want my table to go to Excel, or I could just create a pivot chart straight away from it, or I can only create a connection and not bring it back to Excel. In this case, I will click Select Table because yes, I want to bring my table over to Excel. And now I click OK. Then look, my table is showing in Excel, although it comes from a different Excel file. So that's how we work important data from the same Excel file and from a different Excel file. I hope you liked it. See you in the next video.